Rise and shine. It's 6 a.m. and your hand can't make it to the alarm clock before the voices in your head start telling you it's too early, too dark, too cold to get out of bed. Muscles lie still in rebellion, pretending not to hear your brain commanding them to move. A legion of voices are shouting the unanimous permission for you to hit the snooze button and go back to dreamland. But you didn't ask their opinion. Your heart beats with a compassion for others, but in the back of your mind there is always a question, a hesitation, but you won't let it stop you. The voice you've chosen to listen to is one of defiance, a voice that convicts you, pulling you towards impact you were meant to make. So sit up, put your feet on the floor, and don't look back, because we've got work to do. But what is each day but a series of conflicts between the right way and the easy way? Thousands of roads stretch out before you like a spider's web, each one promising the path of least resistance. But you know, it's not about the rational, it's about the irrational. So it's time. Rise up. Step out. Become a difference maker.
I'm really glad you're here because all of our locations, all of us are talking about the same thing, how to be a difference maker. Now I think that you would see in life that there are some difference makers out and about. You might see them on a global platform or even a local one. But here's what we see, the group of us that's gathered, we're intentionally going, okay, we want to be difference makers. What's that look like? Well, our mantra, in essence, is something Jesus said. Let me show you what Jesus said. This is what we're going after. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. Now, here's what we're going after. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see. And why? Why do you do this? So that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. We, as a group of people, as a church, have decided that there is a need for more light in this world. There's darkness, there's things messed up, there's things broken, all the way maybe in your home, to our schools, to our areas, to our just normal lives. And so Jesus said, if you want to make a difference, then you got to be a light. You got to be a light in the darkness, and the way to do that is with your good deeds. And so the series opened up the first week, and we talked about how to begin to make a difference. And where we landed on, I'll give you in summary. If you missed it, don't worry, let me catch up. A difference maker refuses to ignore what breaks their heart. If you want to say, okay, what's the first step? Then you got to look at what breaks your heart. What matters to you so much that it bothers you, it doesn't matter to anybody else? What breaks your heart? What has you just compelled to dwell on something, to think about it and say, well, this problem, this issue, it needs to be fixed. I mean, I know for me personally, I want to show people who Jesus is. Because it breaks my heart that there are people living everyday life without hope, without peace, without joy. There are people living entrenched in worry and anxiety and shame. And I know that Jesus frees us from all of that. So that breaks my heart that there are people living in brokenness. And I would imagine you've got something that breaks your heart. I would imagine you've got something that has become, in essence, a why you get up. I mean, that's what happens when your heart breaks for something and you're like, I'm going to be a part of this, I'm going to make a difference. And It becomes your why. It becomes like why you're actually functioning in the day, why you do the work that you do, why you raise your kids the way that you do, why you date the way that you do. It's this why is driving you. But we gotta actually mature this conversation, because you know that not everyone with a why is making a difference. Not everyone whose heart breaks for something, right? Not everyone who's like, this should be different. Not everyone with a why is making a difference. Not everyone who has seen something that should be changed is helping change it. Thought of different ways to give you a reason as to why this is happening, why some of us have our hearts break over something, or we see a need, but we don't do anything about it. The best way I can example it is cards. These are our vacation cards. But I don't know if you like card games. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I know many people are, whether it's euchre or poker or Go Fish or Uno. There's all different types of card games. And if you've ever played cards with friends or family, there's typically one person that does something and it's annoying. I mean, you deal the cards, right? You deal them out. Everyone gets their cards. But then there's that one person who looks at their cards and they're like, this isn't fair. And they begin to try to play the game. They want to win the game, but they don't like the cards that were dealt to them. And so, if you've ever been with these folks, they become conspiracy theorists like in split seconds, where they're saying something's wrong with the cards, or the dealer is cheating, or they're the unluckiest person in this world, or whatever. There's those people who say, my problem are the cards I was dealt. And then there's the whole other crew who's like, well, I'm gonna use the cards I was dealt, and maybe even try to get better ones. See, that's why I think not everyone with a why is making a difference, because not everyone is willing to continue the game, continue to actually play the game. Not everyone is willing to actually work at this, to go after this. Not everyone is willing to do that. But I introduced you to a guy named Nehemiah. Nehemiah was willing to go after it. Nehemiah was willing to actually go beyond just having a broken heart. But to give you a quick view, Nehemiah was dealt a pretty weird hand. He was a cupbearer. He worked for a king. His job was literally to wake up and make sure the king had wine and it wasn't poisoned, and that was his gig. That was his thing. Eventually, Nehemiah's brother comes and says, hey, we got a major problem back in our homeland. The walls are broken down and things are going horribly. Our people are living in disgrace. And that broke Nehemiah's heart. So Nehemiah resolves, I want to go do something. I want to get this wall fixed. I want to get my people out of trouble and disgrace. His heart was broken. But what I want to show you this week, this is so cool, is that Nehemiah didn't just have a broken heart. Let me show you as the Bible unfolds this. Early the following spring. Yep, I underlined it. I just want you to see, Nehemiah gets a why. His why he's going to live the rest of his life as he sees it. He's going to help his people get out of disgrace, get out of trouble. He's going to build the wall. He's got his why. And many of us in this moment, just like, all right, just go. But I just wanted you to see something. Early the following spring, in the month of Nisan, which there's tons of jokes there, it's too easy. During the 20th year of King Artaxerxes' reign, I was serving the king his wine. I had never before appeared sad in his presence. What I wanted you to see is this: early the following spring. Sometimes our why has to wait. And I know that many of us, I mean, we were a part of the first weekend of this series, and we're like, man, my heart's breaking for this. I got to go do this. And many of us just jump after it. We just start going, there's nothing behind it. We're just have these emotions. And emotions are not bad. A broken heart is necessary. But I want you to see that Nehemiah had to wait. And I don't know if you wonder, is God playing games? Have you ever felt that? Where you feel like God's given you something to do. He's given you a heart for something. And then you're like, yes. And then you just sit there waiting. And waiting. And you're like, I thought God told me to do something. My heart was broken. Well, okay, let me help you. Sometimes our why has to wait. Because our why needs a plan. See, I don't believe and I don't see evidence in my life, in others' lives, in the Bible. I don't see evidence that God wastes time. But he often makes us wait so that a plan can get put together. I mean, it's critical that you and I don't just say out of emotion, you know, this breaks my heart, David. People that are lost or people that are starving, people they don't have what they need. And it breaks our heart. We're like, oh, we got to go do something. And so many of us just hop in a plane and go help. Or many of us will be like, you know what, there's people who don't have food. Here's all my food. And it creates problems. If you don't have a plan to walk out what's broken your heart, well, there are many experts that will tell you exactly what will happen. There has been book after book after book, interview after interview after interview, proof after proof, statistic after statistic that tells us if you and I take our broken hearts over something that's legitimately like not good, if you and I just say, that hurts me, that affects me, and we don't create a plan, and we do it incorrectly. Well, Robert Lupton, he wrote a book called Toxic Charity. You ought to read it. Here's what he said. Giving to those in need what they could be gaining from their own initiative may well be the kindest way to destroy people. And I know a ton of stories of well-intentioned Christians and people and churches who are like, we're going to do some good in this world. We're going to bring some light into the darkness. The news we got about these people or this area, this country, this need, it breaks our heart. And without a plan, they just go. And they create problems. Because if there's someone who needs food and you become their supplier of food, you better do it for the rest of your entire life. Because you just created a dependency if you didn't have a plan. And so, church, we need to have a mature conversation, okay? Yes, a difference should be made. But it's got to go further than a broken heart. And in fact, this guy Nehemiah I've been talking to you about, he had a plan. He had a plan. Let me show you. It wasn't the easiest thing, but I just want you to see some observations I have to make as we go through this. If it pleased the king, because he's afraid of the king. You clear on that? Anytime you talk to the king, and the king notices you're sad, well, the king can just be like, I don't want any sad people around me. You're going to die. So if it pleased the king, and if you're pleased with me, your servant, if you're happy with me, send me to Judah to rebuild the city where my ancestors are buried. I don't know fully well how to articulate how much fear was in Nehemiah's brain. I mean, Nehemiah sees that, he sees a huge need for his people, but to bring it up to the king, I mean, I mean, I don't know if you've ever gone to your boss and asked your boss, hey, I need some extra vacation time. You're like, hey, I know I've used all my vacation. I'm going to need some extra, like, long-term vacation. That can be a little scary if you're gonna make that kind of a request. Can you imagine going to a king who can kill you? That's a bit haunting. Saying, hey, king, hey, what you're doing here, it's good stuff, king. And I know you need me, but I need to go for a long time. That's scary. And I underline this. You see this? I underline this. If you are pleased with me. You see, there's a little bit of anxiety and fear in this. And I think for many of us, we don't go about drafting any kind of plan to make a difference because we're afraid. We're afraid of, well, our income's going to change if we go make a difference. Where are we going to get what we need to go make a difference? What are people going to say? What's our family going to think? And we begin to process all of these fears. And I wanted you to see Nehemiah had the fears too. Like, I need to go make a difference. This needs to happen. This should happen. But I'm scared. So I'll give you wisdom that I learned a while ago. Put your fear on a leash by making a plan. I mean, if you think about your fear, I don't buy into the idea that you and I are like, hey, I know you're afraid, you need to stop being afraid. Oh, okay, thank you very much. No, that doesn't happen. You can't just stop it. But you can control it. You can leash it like a scary dog. You can put it on a leash knowing it's still there, it still intimidates you a little bit, but you can put it on a leash where it doesn't have free rein to go wherever it wants to go. And fear, if you don't want fear stopping you from making a difference, you need a plan. The plan is the part that keeps us from letting our emotions destroy the difference we want to make. So, if you and I are going to begin to make a difference, and we're like, you know what, David, got it. I'm gonna put my fear on a leash. I'm going to have a plan. How in the world do you make a plan? Well, that's what I want to spend the rest of our time talking about. The first process, the first thinking you need to process on even drafting a plan is this. Don't miss where you are because of where you want to go. And many of us, in a sense, I don't know if you've ever done this. You've ever had a friend who's like, hey, here's what I want to do with my life, so I quit my job today. What? See, a lot of times we burn our current bridges to get across the cliff. We're like, no, you need that bridge. And many of us we don't think about and dwell on what we're around and who's around us and what options we have around us to leverage and to utilize and to become a part of the difference. We think about where we're going, what we're going to do. Don't miss where you are because of where you want to go. And where you are, my guess is there are people where you are who can give you wisdom about where you're going to go. My guess is you have some opportunities to learn where you are so that you can go where you need to go. I got this from Nehemiah. And instead of Nehemiah sneaking out in the middle of the night going, you know what? If I talk to the king about leaving for a little bit, he's going to kill me. So in the middle of the night, I'm going to sneak out and just run as fast as I possibly can run. No, you see, Nehemiah didn't let his heart get broken and then run. He actually paid attention to where he was. Let me show you. I also said to the king, just cue in on the fact that he's not running. He's paying attention to where he is so that he can go to where he needs to go to make the difference he wants to make. I also said to the king, if it please the king, let me have letters addressed to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River. Letters from a king Letters from a cupbearer or letters from a king? Which one do you want? You see, where he's at matters. Where he's at wasn't a curse. And many times we don't leverage where we're at, and we jeopardize where we're going to go. I also said to the king, if it please the king, let me have letters addressed to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, instructing them to let me travel safely. He needs bodyguards to travel safely through their territories on my way to Judah. And please give me another letter, addressed to Asaph, the manager of the king's forest, instructing him to give me timber. If you're like, why does he need timber? I will need it to make beams for the gates of the temple fortress, for the city walls, and for a house for myself. Just evidence that Nehemiah doesn't reject where he's at and burn where he's at. He says, where I'm at, God has me. And where I'm going, God is calling me. And he's going, I'm going to pay attention to where I'm at. So he goes to the king and he says, I got a plan. You do understand when the king asks you, hey, so what do you need? You better not respond with, I didn't know you'd ask me that. In fact, let me help you with this. Would your plan compel a king to get involved? And some of you might be saying, my plan, I don't have a plan, and that's your problem. You want people to get involved in what breaks your heart? You want people to be a part of making a difference in this world, and it makes you upset that they aren't, but you don't offer a plan. So I'm asking you frankly, a convicting question even for myself. Would your plan compel a king to get involved? I hope so. I hope that your plan, what you've devised, is beyond just emotions, and that it would compel even a king to get involved. But many of us right now, here's what we're frankly thinking. We've got our heart broken for something, and we're asking the king to fix it. Not to simply be involved, but to fix it. Oftentimes, we don't grow up, we don't mature, and we're like, hey, this breaks my heart. Hey, so-and-so, would you go do something about that? Hey, this should be done. Sure hope the city takes care of it. Hey, this should be fixed. Hey, church, the church should just go do that. Well, maybe you're aware of it because God's breaking your heart over it, and you're the one who's supposed to come up with a plan and to get involved. Now, I knew that as we talk enough about plan, some of us get overwhelmed. We've never put a plan together. We're like, what in the world does a plan require? Well, the story gives us evidence exactly of what a plan requires. Two main things. So if you're taking notes, you ought to prep yourself right now to take notes, okay? But there's going to be two main pieces to your plan. The first one is simple: resources. I've already, somewhat talked about this. You're going to need resources. You already showed you that Nehemiah said, hey, so I'm going to need some timber. I'm going to need some security. I'm going to need resources. What's going to be how are you going to get the resources to do what you need to do? And maybe you make enough money to do it, and you're like, David, my salary covers the necessary resources, but you need more than just money as resources. But I'm going to tell you, if you're going to make a plan, if you're going to go to a bank and say, you know what, I need a business loan, I've got this business plan, you're going to have to show them your plan, and you're going to need them for resources. We know this in life. Resources are critical. And so don't bypass that. Don't just start to empty out your own pantry. And then when your pantry's empty, go, oops, I guess I have to stop making a difference. Pay attention to where the resources come from. And that's hard work. But you know that. So I don't want to spend a lot of time there. You know that every good plan requires resources. Actually, I want to take you to the second part, but I want to show you the verses first. You need resources, but watch this. But now I said to them, Nehemiah, you know very well what trouble we're in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. We know that. I've said that enough now. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. Let us. Do you notice he doesn't say, hey, I want you to watch me in this disgrace. Let us build this. Let's do this together. He's saying perhaps the most critical part to any plan is not resources, it's people. Plans require people. And that's why I tell you, of course, Nehemiah's asking the king to get involved. But if your plan doesn't compel people to be involved, maybe your plan's not very good yet. Don't simply just leverage the problem. Put a plan with it. And you're going to need resources, and you're going to need people. Now, for those of you like, well, I don't know anybody who knows how to do what I want to do. You ever been there where you feel inadequate, inexperienced? You just feel like, I don't know how to make this thing happen, and I don't know other people how to make it happen. Well, here's what's cool about the story of Nehemiah. Nehemiah didn't seem to care who knew how to do what. He just assigned them sections of the wall to be built. They didn't, as a massive group, build one little section and then move on to the next section. No, they divvied up the responsibilities of the entire outside of the wall, and different groups were building different portions of the wall. And you had some people who were very skilled at building walls. They knew what to do. But then there were other people that I want to show you. This is good. Next, going down the line, this is in the Bible, just describing the people that helped build the wall. Next was Uzziel, son of who in the world knows how to say that, right? A goldsmith by trade. Okay, a goldsmith. A jeweler. A jeweler. Not a wall builder, a jeweler. Who also worked on the wall. So beyond him was Hananiah, a manufacturer of perfumes. Can you just visualize these guys work on the wall? You have these massive, maybe Viking-looking like people who work with their hands all the time building the walls. And then as you progress down, you see a dude who makes earrings building the wall. And then next you got a dude who makes perfume. Proving to you and I, experience is not required for making a difference. I kind of expected an amen on this. No? Experience is not required for making a difference. Experience, having made a difference in the past, is not required for you to all of a sudden make a new difference. No. We've got evidence that if you'll go after this with a good plan and you have the right people around you, that all of you can elevate and learn along the way. Oh. One of the best stories that I think takes our need for a plan and it even dissects a little bit more of our need for resources and people and deals with the experiencing thing is the moon landing. Now, I don't know if you remember. Some of you are conspiracy theorists. You're like, yeah, that was in Hollywood. Do you understand how important this moment was. I hope that you do. You see, you and I see this. Neil Armstrong gets a ton of credit. And we see this like the whole idea of one just small step becoming a massive moment for all of mankind. And we're like, wow, this guy is amazing, right? And he becomes a hero. But there have been books written about this moment that most of us don't think about. And I want to bring to your attention. You see, there was a book written that detailed that it wasn't just Neil Armstrong that walked on the moon. In fact, in the book called Team Moon, here's where it goes. There were spacesuit seamstresses, radio telescope operators, parachute designers. There were people, 17,000 engineers, mechanics, soldiers, contractors. There were people, they called them the two Bobs, the guys in Houston monitoring just how little fuel was left in the lunar module during its descent to the surface. There was a 24-year-old computer whiz kid, Jack Garman, who helped work through worrisome computer glitches. The computer code that ran all the systems was developed by a team of software engineers at MIT. Roughly 500 people worked on the space suit. 500 people helped make the space suit. I would tell you Neil Armstrong's one step, based on our best math, required over 400,000 people. Neil Armstrong's one step required thousands of people. And I will tell you this. If one church is going to make a difference in this world, it's going to require thousands of people. And in fact, as you know, we are going into now what officially has launched as Love Week. If you want the most practical example I can give you right now of how you can jump into an incredible moment of making a difference, if you want to become a part of a plan that exists, that will require people and resources, if you want to be a part of this, where our region is made different and better, then I officially invite you in. And maybe it'll be better than walking on the moon. I think it'll have a greater eternal impact. So if you're interested, I think it's first, just like I've preached it and talked about it, before I would ever ask you to be a part of Love Week, I'm going to share with you the plan and hope that it compels you to be a part of it. Let me show you just a glimpse. This is not everything, but this is a glimpse that we're going to go throughout these different organizations and help these folks become aware of how incredible God is through our good deeds. Not so that we get glory or celebrity. No. So they would know who God is. I mean, I know some of these include, like in this specific one, where we're going to help some single moms and widows with home repair needs. We're going to build a wheelchair ramp, so that every time they use that wheelchair ramp, they know God saw their need, took care of them. We're going to help Love Inc. build beds for people who do not currently have beds. When you're thinking about making a difference, come on, let our good deeds shine the light of God. Incredible new organizations like Fork Grill Cafe, we're going to partner with them. Look at this, Club for Boys. We're going to work with foster families, Volunteers of America. Come on, this is just a sampling of what we're going to do in 1 week's time. We have a plan. We have opportunities for you to use your muscles, to use your brains, to use your time. And let me tell you what Love Week requires, what this plan requires. It requires resources. I ask you unashamedly that you would give as much finances to the church this weekend that you possibly can. That you would not hold back. You would say, you know what? This has to be done, so I'm going to give my resources to it. If you've never given, what a great opportunity to begin giving. If you already give, what a great opportunity to increase what you give so that Love Week is completely resourced. At this moment right now, it's tight. Just to give full disclosure, open-handedness for you, we're way behind our budget. I don't say that to guilt you. I'm just telling you, we have a great plan and we need resources. For those of you, already, some of you have donated concrete. Some of you have donated your actual workers at your job. There are different, there's the paint company is letting us buy a gallon of paint and then they give us a gallon of paint. There's many ways to give resources. But perhaps one of the most tangible ways is that almost all of us who have a phone could just text money right now and start funding this. We need resources. We don't fundraise for it. We just try to compel people, hey, this plan's good. This can make a difference. Give to it. And we need people. Thousands of people to begin walking out making a difference. So if you want to start making a difference, you can start literally today by signing yourself up for one of the many projects and also giving to it. Church, come on. We can take these words from Nehemiah, from God. We can right now take something like a light and this week go shine it every place possible in our region. Perhaps you will let God use you this week. I pray that this week will be a week that there is more light than darkness than ever before. Join me in prayer. God, would you help us this week? All we want to do is whatever you want done. And God, I believe you have been giving us a plan, details of who you want us to help and how you want us to help them. God, would you provide the resources to make Love Week happen this week? God, I pray that you would give us financial favor, that you would compel folks to give in ways they've never given. God, I pray that you'll give us people favor, that you would compel people to serve in ways they've never served before. And Lord, would you do something miraculous with the people and the resources? Would you glorify yourself? Would you bring attention to yourself? Would you do a mighty work in the lives of thousands of people through these sacrifices this week? God, I ask that you anoint Love Week and you do with it whatever you find best. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.